Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That is right. It is Your Impact Attack, your one-stop shop for all your TNA coverage, which also includes NXT these days. Uh, and it's just a sign of the times. We got too much wrestling. When it rains, it pours. And who is here with the umbrella? It's the VBC. That's right. Hi, I'm the vet, Jamie Williams. That would be the V. Here's the tag team partner, Brandon, getting the hot tag. We're the only people that know how to do a hot tag in the business anymore. Brandon is the B. What's up, Brandon?
Not much, man. Yeah, it's like you got to watch both shows to kind of keep up with what's going on.
You really kind of do. And it's a good thing I'm covering both of them here at Hameen Media Group. So subscribe at channelattitude.com. Like all these lovely members of the chat, we're just filing. We just opened the doors, so we don't have that many people here. It's kind of looking like the all-in 0 hour. Only a few thousand people are here right now. But if you don't comment, then we can't see you. So who are the two people that have commented so far?
Let's see. We got Liz with us in the house. Whoop, whoop. And we got Steve Egger joining us as well. How y'all doing? Giggity, giggity. Always a pleasure seeing you guys. Whoop, whoop.
Two of my favorite people in the entire planet. A lot of wrestling this weekend. A lot of wrestling this weekend. A lot of wrestling last weekend. Some more wrestling next weekend. It's Labor Day weekend, so they're making sure to put everybody to work. We had TNA Emergence. We had NXT No Mercy. We had Bash in Berlin. We had a hot dog eating contest today. That's not wrestling, but whatever. RBV did a watch along for it, so it counts. Just stuff is just happening. And then some weekends will be just like a ghost town with a tumbleweed going through it. No events, So I really wish everyone could just get on the horn and coordinate with each other to spread this stuff out so that there's just no more than one thing per weekend, so we can all just relax a little bit. But we never relax here at HMG. We're going to bring you that coverage. We're going to bring you that content. And I guess we can just kind of get it started. I don't really know where to begin. Any news in particular that came across your desk that you would like to discuss before we get into talking about Impact and Emergence?
Man, not really a whole lot going on the news front. Not a lot of big stuff has dropped in a while. Which usually means it's kind of like the whole, you kink the hose and then water builds up, and then once you do the thing, it just explodes.
That's right. Well, they say no news is good news, so that's good. I only have, as far as relative news, I really only have one little piece, and it's kind of not even that big of a deal because one, they're just spoilers basically for the TNA tapings that took place after Emergence. Just the fact that there's a few more NXT people in the house, so we'll be seeing them coming up on future episodes. So for example, Santino's daughter may make an appearance.
We were kind of expecting that to happen at some point. That's one of the obvious ones.
Honestly, surprising it hasn't already. And the question is, what are they going to do there to make it entertaining? I would love to see what kind of an on-screen character chemistry that they would have. Because I haven't seen them together since he brought her around the Davis Arena as a tiny child. And then Karate Carmen may make an appearance, and Blair Davenport, aka B. Priestley, was there. So we'll see what happens there. But that's just a little something to look forward to. But other than that, nothing really relevant. I mean, Jordan Grace made a tweet that says time to play the game. All right. I don't know. Maybe anybody else in the chat has heard of anything they may want us to comment on, I guess, while we get things going here. But, and you know what? You guys can ask us pretty much anything you want to ask. So if you guys got any questions, please be sure to let us know what you want. So we didn't get a question for Chris Winland this week.
Yeah, that's
Somebody
kind of
check
weird.
on him. Anybody knock on his door and make sure he's not, decomposing
Give me a wellness
somewhere?
check, pal.
That's right. So yeah, that's basically it. Oh, Gam
Oh
Wolfers.
yeah, there was that. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was kind of a bit of a big deal.
Yeah, so Jimmy T brought this up on the wreckage yesterday, but Jimmy T does a very bad job of getting into details sometimes. So I really don't know that much other than what he told me. Supposedly there was a 911 call. Her husband was, I don't know, was he arrested? I don't even remember the details of this.
I think he was, not 100% sure. I want to say yes.
Yeah. So I guess the best way to say it is, unlike most of the people on the internet, I don't care to comment on things I have no idea about. All I can tell you for sure is that I'm a fan of Nikki Bella, so I hope she's doing fine. And I'm sure she will be.
Oh. Okay, yeah. I just knew that there was some sort of situation. I didn't read the details, but wow, okay. That's
well. Liz says you might as well read that out, Brandon, if you want to put it up there.
The husband called 911 for help. The police showed up and they arrested him. He called back and said, "Oh, never mind," but the cops showed up anyways.
Oh.
Yeah, I did catch that part about Bella throwing shoes, but yeah, I didn't read the entire story. Like that could have been that. Who knows when that happened during the entire dispute?
Is that what is this? Is this a Tony Storm reference? Like, what are we doing here?
No, apparently that actually happened during the thing, or according to the reports of the. I don't know.
What kind of a man needs to call the cops?
I'm sorry. You, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, really. Random task. Yeah, like what I don't know of a woman on earth that I would have to call the police on. I'm pretty sure I can handle it. Or just leave. If I don't let's put it this way. You guys know I can be somewhat what's the word? Inciting, perhaps? You know that some of my comments may be, I have a certain level of vitriol. You could see I'm getting better, but there was a time. Okay, whoa. Well, why don't you say that, Liz? What's wrong with you? Don't just type things in fragments. What did she say, Brandon?
He called for an ambulance for her, not for the cops to help him.
Well, there you go. See, that's why I don't comment on stuff with no information. Especially when I get pieced the information. All right, you know what? We're not talking about that anymore. You guys go look that shit up. Let's talk about this, as Steve brings up here. Sonny King passed away this week. And I didn't really have time to look into this or process this. But obviously Sonny King is kind of a big deal. He actually has won the WWF Tag Team Championships. Which he was like one of the first black people to ever do that in WWE. So right off the bat, historic pioneer. Started as a boxer, Ernie Ladd got him into wrestling, um, and he won that aforementioned tag team championship with Chief J Strongbow. Um, so, um, you know, so that's like he's like an important figure in wrestling for like as far as like
Advancing.
yes, with guys like well, Ernie Ladd is one. Um, Bobo Brazil one. Sailor Art Thomas. There's a lot of
Thunderbolt
guys that are,
Patterson. You can go down the list.
right. There's a lot of guys that were very important to getting us to where we are today, which some people might think or might argue that it's not far enough yet. Um, so
I do
yes,
agree. It could be further.
right. And I know Marx will say like, well, they put a belt on, so it's that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about that.
Tune into Black and White with Stevie Ray and Vince Russo.
That's right. Yeah, you want to hear the real truth. Listen to that show. So, um, yeah. So that's that was very unfortunate to hear. Also, and I know even less about this. That one of the Vianos passed away.
Number 5.
Also, yeah. So those guys were a big deal. A lot of us saw them in WCW during the during that time when Eric Bischoff brought all those wrestlers from overseas and Mexico to be on Nitro for the portion that I always ended up sort of falling asleep during. It seemed like because I remember staying up late, every night and going to school and coming home and being tired, but then um like Nitro would come on, and on the West Coast it was on at 5 p.m. and so I start watching it, and then on the couch I would fall asleep at like around 6. Like I'd nod off around 6, and I always woke up to like one of the cruiserweight matches, or like one of the one of those like multi-man luchador matches or something. So I always associated them with what I called the Nitro nap. So purely coincidental. They never put me to sleep, but they always seemed to be on around that time when I'd get drowsy. So yeah, man, Viano's historic wrestling family, sad to hear about that too. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, tragic. Always sucks when someone passes away.
And it just keeps on happening, like we already had enough. Just like with the wrestling shows, can we, maybe we could cool it with the wrestling deaths too?
Yeah, it was a week. Sid was a week ago.
That's right. Sid, Wild Samoans, a bunch of others that I'm going to forget because there's too many. I don't know. Well, let's see. What else can we talk about? What do you want to talk about? I guess
Where's Sammy Callahan been? I haven't seen him on TV in a bit.
Good. Wherever he is, stay there. His TV got canceled. DMTV got canceled. Thank goodness. Yeah. Well, we do have a couple of TNA shows to go over, and I assume a punch up, so maybe we just shouldn't waste any more time, and let's get right into it. If you have any further questions, please hold them to the end of the review, but we're going to have to start with the go home for Emergence, which was taped who knows when, but it aired on the Thursday right before. So we're still in Tampa. This is we're gonna start with our usual traditional ketchup packet. Hines. Sorry, Media M5. There will be no hunts. Do they even sell hunts? Do they even have individual hunts packets like that? I don't think they do, right? I've never seen one. Who would waste their time putting hunts in a tiny packet?
They might. I think I might have seen them before. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, anyway, here's a guy you might have seen before, Rich Swann, who is, I guess, currently still suspended, I believe, but this is already recorded. And he was supposed to take on Speedball Mike Bailey, which he did. AJ Francis is on commentary. The Rascals are watching on the TV. Trent Seven's out there in, to neutralize the first class. And then, so AJ tries to get involved, and then Trent stops him, and then he hits Trent. Trent takes a bump. And then back in the ring, Mike Bailey hits the, I actually never seen him win with this before. It's that move. I don't really know what you call it. I don't know what a wrestler calls it these days, but it's like the move that, God, who used to do this move all the time? It's like you take a crossbody and then like flip with it into it's like you, I don't even know how to describe it even. It's like a flipping crossbody thing. Like you catch the crossbody and flip over like you're doing a moonsault. So it almost looks like you power slam the guy. But it's impossible. Like like with the laws of physics, it would be impossible to do this without cooperation. Like you couldn't just do this to a person if you decided to against their will. So it's like, it's always like one of these, but there was, who used to do that all the time? There was a guy, he's still a guy. But I'm trying to think, like, who was it that I saw popularize this move where every time I saw it, I would just roll my eyes. It's like, you can't just do that. Anyway, Bailey did it and just pinned Rich Swann here. So, that was always going to be the outcome. Nothing really surprising there, but hey, it's a match. It's a match that we could have had on the pay-per-view, and we didn't. So we put it here, which is good. Actually, that's kind of the story of this show. And that's kind of been the story of shows. And that's been something I've been saying for a long time. Like, you can't have these 8-hour pay-per-views and fit every match on there. So why don't you make go-home shows like a mini pay-per-view preview? And it seems like people are finally getting around to that idea that they should have had 5-10 years ago. So congratulations. You caught up to me finally. Brandon, do you have any thoughts on this particular match?
No, not a bad match. It just kind of felt like it was a built up for Mike Bailey, which it should have been. And of course, with Swann being taken off TV and being suspended indefinitely, it's in a weird way it worked out perfectly.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
That's probably why they aired it. It's just like, let's let Mike Bailey look good. He's not going to be back on TV for a while anyway. It's just easier to just roll it.
Roll it. Roll the tape. Okay, Jordan Grace is with Gia, no music underneath. She basically says, I don't care what this match by elegance is. I mean, that's the gist of her whole promo. Whatever it is, I'm going to win. That's what she said. Now we get Fat Brian versus Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry tells the crowd, definitely, if you respect Brian Myers, do not chant Edge's bitch. So everybody chants Edge's bitch. And he says, see, absolutely nobody respects Brian Myers. And during the course of this match, the rest of the system gets ejected. But after Hendry gets the win, Fat Eddie runs back out to take out Joe Hendry. He chop blocks him, takes him down. And then Santana's music hits, and he does his full crowd. Well, it's not a full crowd entrance. I would venture to say it's a condensed crowd entrance. But he has really no There's no sense of urgency about helping Joe Hendry out or anything like that. He's just like, yeah, I'll just slowly walk through the crowd. And then security gets Brian Myers out of there. And at first I was confused because at first I thought they were just doing this really shitty, but then I realized what they were doing. Oh, it's like, oh, they're just going into the next singles match. So like, okay, I'll give them a pass on that. Cause I was like, first of all, you bailed on your partner, right? Like Brian Myers, look at first the way they shot it, they made it look like he just bailed out, and left Eddie to fight Santana on his own. And I thought Joe Hendry was still there, so I thought they were going to beat him up, but no, they just went into the next singles match, and the security ushered everybody out. So the next match is Mike versus Eddie, and Mike wins with his clothesline, and Myers does not return the favor of attacking Santana after the match. After he wins, he was fine to stay in the back and just let Fat Eddie hold that. Were you as confused as I was initially about the way they formatted this, where they just transitioned from a pull apart into another singles match?
It was, yeah, a little confusing at first, but then once it got to the end, it's like, oh, okay, now I get what they're doing.
What did you think of the booking of yeah, we'll just beat both these guys? Is that the right thing to do in this case?
With where they went with the pay-per-view, I think it was.
Okay. Any other notes or observations?
Other than a little bit long for TV, the matches themselves were fine.
All right. Santino confronts Matt Qdoba. He's mad that he got hoodwinked, but what can you do? I thought it was crazy how the lights, the RGB lights that they set up. I thought it was crazy how they just so happened to match Matt Cardona's purple jacket. Like there was a purple light and a little turquoise light. Like, isn't that crazy? How it looked exactly like his jacket coincidentally as he was standing there. It's amazing how the synchronicity, all right. Next we have Burt Macklin.
When he said he is going to bring a monster, I was kind of thinking it might be Abyss.
Really? Okay. So Burt Macklin's on commentary for Hammerstone versus Eric Young. So this is yet another match between these guys. If there was one that mattered between them, I think this is the trilogy, right? Is this the third match?
I think it might be. Definitely at least the second.
Definitely the second, probably the third. Unless I'm thinking of a tag match they had or something. But the point is, no one's going to remember this match buried in the middle of a regular TV show. Eric Young made sure to win the match that more people were going to see. So that's like a dirty veteran tactic or dirty veteran booking tactic if Eric Young had nothing to do with it. If he didn't politic for it. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do a clean job in the middle of, some show no one's ever going to remember. That'd be fine. Not that anybody's going to remember the pay-per-view that he won at either, but still, like, these guys are in TNA. They have to take what they can get. There is no level that's low enough in the wrestling business for people to not act like they're in the main event of WrestleMania. Trust me. Brandon, you can attest to that.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's no shame of being like, Jesus, look at us. We're in this fucking barn. Like, they will all still think that everything is the most important thing. So it's definitely somebody knows what they're doing here. Oh yeah, you'll get your win back, Hammerstone. Don't worry, we got plans for you, buddy. Uh, so yeah, Nightmare Pendulum to Eric Young. Any thoughts on the match?
I mean, it was an alright match. And at least it kind of the finish protected Eric Young when he was kind of him costing himself by jaw jacking with Macklin at commentary.
Because we got to set up that important match. The two guys that have never had a match. They never even touched. This was so hype. I can't wait to talk about Emergence so we can get into these guys' match. The Deaners take on ABC. Cody Deaner gets folded. And then First Class comes back out to attack ABC. And Jake something looks at it for a while and then he just walks away. So apparently he still has this internal conflict about who he is.
So you're going back to this angle now, or this storyline?
Yeah. Anyway, the concierge is talking to Militia, but Tom is doing the voiceover because they're going to break. So it just shows it's one of those things. It just shows it. We're not getting any audio for it. Can you imagine, again, like I always will point this out. There's a reason why I break like sequentially and even the minute details of like what they do. Because even though there's only like 5 seconds going to break or whatever of them showing this, but the fact that they show it, I just think like the first thing that pops into my mind is if you were like with TNA where they just have these cameras and they'll shoot like a movie, you know, a movie starring Frankie Kazarian outside with, you know, Nick Nemeth fighting, or, you know, Eric Young getting stabbed to death, or whatever things they do, or they'll have these cameras backstage for these interviews and people are always interrupting and stuff like that. And, you know, they'll have all this stuff and then they feel the need to have a camera on these people and then we don't care what they're saying. It's just, let's just hear Tom say some generic shit. Like, almost is like, why do it? You know, this is the spot where you see like a guy walking to the ring, or like, you know, using the Stevie Richards fitness bands or something, like where you don't need dialogue, but he's clearly talking to Militia here and saying things to them. Nah, who cares what he's saying? All right. I mean, I don't care, but you know what I mean. We get a recap of Rosemary's Adventures in NXT, and you can get a recap of what people thought of Rosemary's Adventures in NXT if you subscribe to the Hami Media Group YouTube channel and you've been seeing Big Ray's epic shorts series, or saga, if you will, about Rosemary versus Kalani Jordan in NXT. So go check those out if you haven't. They're on X, they're on Instagram. He's posting them on TikTok. I'm sure. Yeah. So, all right. So we've come to the big moment, Brandon. We find out what is a match by elegance. What is it? And the answer is it's a normal garbage match, except all the garbage is pink. That's it. That's all it is.
Get me Barbie Street Fight, pal.
Yep. I was very conflicted here. I wanted to be able to disavow this because I saw a pink kendo stick laying on the ground. Right? But, you know, I thought maybe that's Kendra with a makeover. So, you know, Kendra's a character on the show, so that's not like a normal kendo stick, right? So I can't just necessarily disavow it right off the bat. I had to give it a chance and see where it went. Especially since we saw the concierge already talking to Militia backstage. So we knew that Lish might make an appearance with Kendra. And she, I think she did bring Kendra. But anyway, whatever. They tried to, Rosemary is the first one to show up in this garbage match. She spears Ash. That's when Alicia and Masha come in. They attack Jordan Grace. Then Spitfire comes out, fights them off. Then Jordan Grace hits the muscle buster through the table that earlier Ash and the concierge had set with a table clock. A tablecloth. They set a tablecloth on the table neatly and not perfectly, and then later on, muscle buster. Jordan Grace retains. She was right not to care about a match by elegance. I don't have anything to say about this, man. I should disavow it, but
it was literally just a Barbie themed street fight.
Yeah, without Barbie. It would be like all the Mattel logos were scrubbed off of everything, and there's just all we're left with is a pink chair, Like, where would you ever get that? You would get a chair, and then you would have some crew like spray painting this chair pink backstage. Several chairs, actually. So, yeah, Canada Spaceman talking about the spot that's normally reserved for like the tacks or the Legos or whatever. This time was like these big diamonds. Nothing ever ended up coming of it though. So they were like, okay, we're not taking a bump on that. We'll just threaten it. Smart for once. So yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Yeah. So much could go wrong with that. So much could go wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. I hope people liked it. I guess. No, I don't. I actually don't hope they like it. What am I saying? Y'all would be ashamed of yourself if you liked it. You're what's wrong with the business. And this ends with... Oh, by the way, before I move on, is there anything else you'd like to say about this match by elegance?
Still a little too long.
Really? Wow.
But I do think Jordan and Ash, they just gel well together. They seem to put on good matches anytime they get in the ring together.
Yeah, for whatever it's worth, I'm much more invested in Ash by Elegance than I am Dana Brooke. It's not anything that... There's just weird stuff around it that has happened that I don't know who to blame particularly for that. Like that, we went on that 10-minute tangent about how she interfered in that match when it didn't matter if the ref saw her or not, and like we were like, what is this? Or that time that she just beat the shit out. It's like she beat Havoc and beat the shit out of her afterwards. Like, those are things that aren't like, I don't attribute to her personally because I don't know what the deal was with those booking decisions, but that's really been the only thing wrong. I think she's been playing her part exceptionally well. And that concierge guy's fucking annoying, so he's doing his job. If he annoys me, a jaded, bitter, tired, don't even want to watch this shit guy, then he must be doing his job as a heel. So all right, and so our main event for this particular show, not a match, but a sit down interview, cinematic sit down. We've got coverage on this.
Yeah. Take a seat.
Yeah, you know what happens now. Matthew Raywalt comes in, and he moderates with question for Dolph Ziggler and Josh Alexander. This is a no contact sit down. Only contact you better be making is with your butts in those seats. Okay? Don't you dare touch each other. I'm watching you. So these guys do their interview, whatever, and it gets progressively heated. I actually build this interview like a match. They both start talking casually and then shouting in each other's faces by the end. And at one point, Josh Alexander got up and turned his chair around And I was like, oh, I wonder how Santana feels about that. And then Dolph Ziggler got up and he turned his chair around. And I'm like, Santana's got to be pulling his hair out. So here's the thing. This is the proof that I'm a very fair person when it comes to grading this. I thought this was good, right? Like, I thought what they did was pretty good. It just happens to be with two guys that I gave up on, you know? Like, I just don't care anymore. There's nothing these guys can do to win me over now. It was like, you know, Dolph took years and years and he lost me. You know, like years and years of me giving him chances and he lost me and he's not getting me back. There's just no way. I can't blame WWE for what happened to him. It was always him, right? I mean, granted, he didn't get always the best and most fair shakes from the company. And I know that the way they treated him was wrong. But when that happens to people, I can still enjoy them because I can see what they're capable of, what they're trying to do, what their potential is, and things like that, right? And there's nothing wrong with him other than he's just not for me to be entertaining. Other people find him entertaining. I don't have a problem with that. I won't argue with anybody. But and Josh Alexander, you know, like he's had time. And, you know, it was very recently when I was just like, yeah, this guy, I'm done with him. I forget what it was. He did something in some matches where I was like, yeah. Kind of like when, it was similar to when Brian Myers dropped the ladder on Bhupinder Gujar's face, and I was just like, I'm done with you. I'm gonna stop being respectful to you. I don't care anymore. You know, I try to be respectful of the wrestlers. They're still out there doing it, but once you cross a line, pun intended, I'm just gonna leave the gloves off when it comes to you. So these two guys did a good segment, a good interview segment, and I just don't care about them. So that's what it is. What did you think of it, though? Did you think this was pretty good, or what would you have? Well, I mean, if you don't punch this up specifically, would you have done anything differently here?
I would have kept it intact, but I would have extended the ending a little bit, as we will get to in the punching up.
Yeah, the only thing, like, Dolph gets the last word in it. He just says something like, that's why I'm the TNA champion, you're not. It's just like, you know, whatever generic line he said. And Josh just looked at him and like smirked and then walked off. But I thought he could have just said, you know, something like, not yet. Not the TNA champion yet. Or something. But he just walked off. So there you go. That's supposed to get you ready for Emergence and sitting through another hour of these guys. But before we get there, let's punch up this show.
Get it. Whoop, whoop. All right, so we kick it off with our recap and our ketchup packet. Then we go to the intro, Pyro and Ballyhoo, go into the announce table, run down card for tonight, talk about recent events, give their thoughts. We go backstage where we see Nick Nemeth and Josh Alexander arriving at the building. Announcers mention the stipulation that Nick and Josh can't touch each other, otherwise the match is off and Nick is stripped of the title. Cut to a quick shot of the Rascals in the balcony. Mention Wentz versus Lee at NXT No Mercy. We go to the in-ring with the System music and entrance. Moose promo about how the System sent the Hardys to the hospital. Moose throws it to footage they shot of them jumping Matt and Jeff and leaving them laying before getting loaded into ambulances. Moose says all they have to do is finish off Matt and Jeff's partners. And then Moose says, say his name. Joe Hendry music and entrance with Mike Santana. Joe Hendry promo where he makes fun of the System. Hendry says the System didn't beat the Hardys, they broke them. Broken Matt Hardy music and entrance with Brother Nero. Baby faces rush the ring for a brawl. Go to our first commercial break. During the break, you come back with during the break, the brawl is continuing, and Santino has sent the locker room out to break everything up. And then we go backstage to Santino's office. He says that during the Hendry versus Myers and Santana versus Edwards matches, if anyone from either team gets involved, they will be removed from the emergence match. Where I'm carrying this over from last week's. I thought this would be a good idea. There's a lot of different ways you can go with this. Where the winning team gets a match, or each member of the winning team gets a match of their choosing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to match number 1, X Division Championship, Mike Bailey versus Rich Swann. Rich Swann music and entrance with AJ Francis. Mike Bailey music and entrance. Cut to shots of Rascals in the balcony. Condensed version of the match on the show. Then we cut to the balcony with the Rascals. Trey and Zachary talk about the Ultimate X match and NXT No Mercy. And then Wes Lee attacks both Trey and Zachary from behind. Wes attempts to throw Zachary over the balcony, but Trey makes a save before we go to our second commercial break. You go backstage to Santino's office. Santino is on the phone with someone who's implied to be Ava. Santino tells Ava about what just happened with Wesley and the Rascals. Ava assures Santino she'll take care of Wesley on her end. We go backstage with Gia and Jordan Grace. The same promo we get on the show. Match number 2, Eric Young versus Alexander Hammerstone. Macklin sits in on commentary. Alexander Hammerstone music and entrance. Eric Young music and entrance. Condensed version of the match on the show. We go backstage with Santino's office. Match change promo with Matt Cardona saying he has a monster to face PCO. And then match number 3, Eddie Edwards versus Mike Santana. Eddie Edwards music and entrance. Mike Santana music and entrance. Condensed version of match on the show. Myers immediately rushes the ring and attacks Santana. Santana fights back but loses the numbers game. Joe Hendry music and entrance. Hendry runs out, evens the odds, and they keep brawling. Commercial break number 3. Come back with match number 4, Joe Hendry versus Brian Myers. Match is already in progress. We get a picture-in-picture of Santino coming out during the break and announcing Hendry versus Myers. We'll start immediately before reprimanding Edwards and Santana, or reminding Edwards and Santana of the stipulation and sending them to the back. Condensed version of match on the show. And then Santana and Edwards are back out to fight. Cameras are backstage and they catch Moose, JDC, and the Broken Hardys fighting. Commercial break number 4. Come back to go backstage at Santino's office. Santino announces that all 8 men in the tag match have been removed from the building and returned to their hotels or wherever else they're staying. Match number 5, TNA Tag Team Championship, ABC versus Jake Something and Cody Deaner. Jake Something and Cody Deaner music and entrance. Same pre-match promo. ABC music and entrance. Condensed version of match on the show. First Class jumps ABC post-match. Backstage, Santino's office. Rascals enter. Wentz says he saw Santino talking to a certain someone on the phone earlier. Wentz says if he wins the X Division title at Emergence, he wants his match with Wesley to be for the title. Wentz says, or Santino says, if Wentz wins, he'll make the call and see what he can do. Replay, Rosemary and NXT, same as on the show. Vignette, Rosemary and Wendy Chu. They do their character work, cut a promo, just do their thing, but as long as they make sure that they mention they want the Knockouts tag team titles.
Dark.
Then you go backstage with the Concierge and Militia. Same thing we got on the show. And then match number 6, Knockouts title. In a match by Elegance, Jordan Grace versus Ash by Elegance. Ash by Elegance, music and entrance. Jordan Grace, music and entrance. Same matches on the show. Post-match leads to a hardcore brawl between the 6 women. Then you cut backstage to the parking lot. A car is seen pulling up and the announcers wonder who it could be. Commercial break number 5, New Japan hype video. Go to the announce table. Hard sell for Emergence. Brief rundown of next week's card. And then we cut to the sit down with Josh Alexander and Nick Nemeth. Goes the same, but as soon as Josh Alexander leaves, someone in a hood attacks Nick Nemeth and leaves him laying.
Oh, no.
And this would, and a little bit of Emergence rebooking. This same masked person gets involved in the main event match and helps Josh Alexander go over for the TNA title. He takes the hood off. It's Ethan Page.
It's Ethan Page. Well, that would be cool. Didn't happen. But that was your punched up go home. But speaking of emergence, it emerged this past Friday from Louisville, Kentucky, I believe. Is that correct? Steve, were you there?
That's a good question. Let me check.
Pretty
I want to
sure.
say it was. I want to say it was. That sounds about right.
Well, as usual, we're going to get a countdown show. And who do we have? Yes.
Yep, yes. Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeehaw. That's not a Kentucky thing. But
hey, give TNA their props. That's their second, PLE pay-per-view sellout in a row.
Yeah, good job, TNA. And
it looks like they're on the up. I mean, that's a good thing for the business.
Right. Well, that's the important thing. Because despite it was that, but I don't live in Louisville anymore. All right. So yeah, basically the whole idea of a wrestling event is to sell tickets to the show. And the ongoing debate of whether it's a sporting a sporting event or a television show, it's the television show is a commercial for the live event. That's how it's always been. That's how it's always going to be. Without people, you have the Thunderdome era, and nobody wants to go back to that. So there you go. So even if TNA's ratings on Access TV don't go up one iota, if they're filling the buildings, that means they're going in the right direction, like you're saying. And that's the same thing with the WWE too, because their houses are up and their ratings aren't. Like they're supposedly doing the best business they've done in a long time. The arenas are full of people. They're making money hand over fist. They're turning big profits and going all around the world, setting record gates. And the Raw rating is at like what? 1.6? Like it's not going up. So it just goes to show you that it's not so much that people aren't watching wrestling anymore. It's that they're not watching wrestling on cable. They find their ways. And as long as the houses aren't declining, that's what gives you the real trend and direction for the business.
I just thought of something from watching Raw tonight. Something just clicked. I think what they're trying to do with the TV shows, with the live, with Raw and SmackDown, is create that atmosphere of you got to be here live to really enjoy and experience it.
Yes, which is what it should always have been. That's what it always was. They're trying to get you in the building. Why do you want to go to, why do you want to go out of your way, drive, let alone, God forbid, fly somewhere, spend all that money, pay for the parking, pay for the concessions, pay for the merch, pay for this, that, and the other thing, that the unforeseen expenses that pop up and all this other stuff. Like, why do you want to go out of your way to do that when you could just sit and watch it at home? Why does anybody do that? Why do they go to concerts? Why do they go to festivals? Why do they go to conventions? Why do they go to anything? It's so that you can be there and you can say you were there and you can make a memory and you could say, I was in the building when The Rock came back, or I was there for John Cena's last match, or whatever the selling point of getting you in there, you'll be able to say, I was there. Not I was on the couch watching it. That's what it is.
To be fair to Canada Spaceman's point, it's pretty. That shit's pretty expensive nowadays. You better get so expensive. You better get some sucky with it.
Well, depending on your standards, that can be much cheaper. That's what you want. So, regardless of what Canada Spaceman gets behind the back of a Tim Hortons, we have the countdown to emergence. And that is, we're opening up. Oh, man, this is so good. Okay, you ready for the match, guys? You don't know how blessed you are to get this match for free. It's Kushida versus the heavy metal rebel, Frankie Kazarian. This is something you got to be
there. The king
of
TNA. You get it right.
The king of TNA. I will force Josh Alexander's wife to say this, and he's not going to have a problem with that. He's never going to mention it on the show, me berating his wife, ever. Because he's a heel, so he doesn't need to. He's cool with what I'm doing. I'm Frankie Kazarian. I have a delicious tan. I give out the juicy seals. I bet on myself. I walked away to bet on myself. And it's a good thing I'm not a professional gambler, because here I am opening up a secondary show for TNA on the free portion.
That's why he's the king of the TNA, pal. Setting the tone for everybody else. Leading for everybody else to follow.
That's right. I want to get my match over with, get in the shower, and take off. I'm not going to watch the rest of the show like a true veteran. That's right. That's what he's here to do. He bet on himself and he won. He won the opening match on the kickoff to the secondary live event show. You don't even need the TNA Plus app to watch this. You can see the king of TNA. Okay, I think I made my point. He hits a low blow on Kushida and hits the fade to black on Kushida. Poor Kushida. All right. Well, there you go. It was all worth it. He bet on himself and he won. There you go. So
whatever happened to the Kushida Jonathan Gresham storyline? Looks like the guy kind of dropped.
Yeah, who cares about that? We don't need to hear about that Jonathan Gresham and his damn mask and ink and any of that bullshit anymore. He just has regular matches again as a regular human. Except not on the Go Home show and not on this show. AJ's with Gia and no music underneath. Basically, he learned from playing sports that it's next man up. And the next man up, since Rich Swann is not there, which they did mention him, but they didn't mention anything about him. The next man up is KC Navarro. You all remember KC Navarro from that one match where he couldn't qualify for the X Division Ultimate X match and hardly any other matches.
I remember that, dude.
Yeah. So he cuts a promo here. They got similar Jordans on. You know, he knows what it's like to fly first class, I'm sure. I'm sure everywhere KC Navarro has gone in his wrestling career, he's flown first class. I have nothing against KC Navarro. I'm not trying to. He's out there busting his ass, and he was the next man up, and he got his shot, and here he is. So,
and best luck to him. Hope he nails it. It's an opportunity, kid. Run with it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if he nails it. But before we get to that, our last free match is it's for PCO's belts. You know, the digital media one and the eBay one. And he's taking on Shira. You remember Shira? He's a guy. Remember him? Remember him?
Ooh, I remember.
So, yeah. I had to watch this match because I was like, if anybody can be worse than PCO, it could be Shira. But as a matter of fact, for the first time in however long his fucking career has been, how long has this guy been wrestling, Shira?
I know he's part of the... Oof. He's been in TNA at least 10 years.
Oh, at least. I feel like it's more. I don't know why I feel like that. But let's just say, this match was the first time that I've watched him. And I admit I don't watch everything he does. I don't watch any of his OVW matches or anything like that. But it's the first time he approached anything looking like a real professional wrestler to me. So I was glad to see that he's finally getting it. However, unfortunately, his match was with PCO. And this was not a good outing, even by his standards of looking terrible and fucking everything up. You know, when he burst on the scene with this gimmick, it was like, wow, look at this guy. Look at all the stuff he's doing. And now it's like, wow, look at this guy. Look at all the stuff he's done to himself. That's what it's, and it's now it's been caught up with him, but this could be the worst one yet. First of all, that dive he does where he like jumps through the rope and basically does like the little flip, the little cannonball flip.
And lands right on the ramp.
Yep. He completely whiffed Shira in the first place. Like, all Shira had to do was stand there and catch him, and PCO just completely missed him. I get it. He can't see out of one eye. His depth perception's off, but still, I don't, yeah. So the next thing, and he could have fucked himself up there, because make no mistake, PCO fucked himself up in this, and we'll get more on that later. That could have been it, and he looked disoriented after that. But they went to the next spot, which was a de-animator, which is the one where he basically does the the swanton on the guy laying on the apron, and he does that, and he basically just, because he's trying to protect the guy, like he's trying not to just squash the guy and like seriously hurt him. So he like basically almost just completely misses again and just slides off the apron and hits the floor again. So, it's something that may be time to take out of the repertoire, because if you care about the guy's physical well-being to the point that you're trying to not hurt them with it, then you're only going to hurt yourself, and then the move also looks bad. Like, it looks bad. Like he missed again. So he just kind of slides off the side of Shira's face on this and hits the floor again. And then the PCO salt was just knees to knees. He flipped, landed with his knees, crashed right down on Shira's knees. And yeah. I take it from the look on your face, you may know what that feels like firsthand.
No, I just picturing it looks painful. It feels painful.
It was painful to watch. So yeah, thankfully
PCO,
it was over at that point.
You've given enough to the wrestling business, man. You don't need to keep doing this to yourself.
Yeah. No, but he thinks he does, because now you paint yourself in a corner. This is what happens when you do this. Doesn't matter what you do, you paint yourself in a corner. If you get something over, people will expect you to do it forever. That's why the things that you get over better be easy for everybody involved, right?
That was a harsh lesson Sabu had to learn.
Sabu? Everybody has to learn this. Even Hulk Hogan. Oh, I'm going to drop the leg, brother. Like Rip Rogers constantly would say, like, oh yeah, he has 24-inch pythons, but his finishing move is a leg drop. Okay.
I think Hogan's even said like he wished he would move with the sleeper for the finish, which actually would have made sense with the 24-inch pythons.
Yeah, you know what his finisher was in New Japan?
Wasn't it the X Bomber?
Yeah, which is what?
Double axe handle.
So, if you get something over, like Mick Foley gets over a sock, it's too bad that he already got over taking crazy bumps way before the sock. If, anybody that does high flying moves, now you got to do high flying moves forever. Anything that's like a crazy spectacular move that hurts to take and hurts to give, Now people, if you get that over, people expect it from you. So PCO's whole gimmick is like, look what he's doing to himself, and he keeps coming back. Well, the first time that you fuck yourself up so bad you can't come back, you not only did you fuck yourself up, you killed your gimmick. So you're just, it's a ticking time bomb at this point. So I just, I don't know. Why am I lecturing this guy? He knows what he's doing. So we have a main card now. Now you watched Emergence, right?
Yes, the main card.
Okay, you didn't catch the countdown show, but
No.
I kind of wish you did, because I would have wanted you to see that, even though I didn't want you to see that. The opening match, of course, as always, is the Ultimate X match. It's Zachary Wentz versus Jason Hotch versus Riley Osborne from Chase U versus Laredo Kid versus Hammerstone versus the champion Speedball Mike Bailey. I mean, what can you say? Can you say anything? Anything you want to say?
At least they had a pretty like diverse group of guys in there as far as like styles and whatnot go, and characters. So I thought it made for a much more interesting match. Like Hammerstone being the power guy. Yeah, Jason Hotch kind of showing a little bit more of what he can do, even though he's kind of the fall guy.
Yeah, he did like a flip over the top rope at some point.
Then, of course, everybody else filling in, with extra bodies. But Zachary Wentz was kind of surprising going over.
Yeah, talk about that.
Well, as soon as it happened, I immediately thought that they're doing that. I think they're going to set up for him and Wesley for the X Division title.
That's what I thought. I just assume like, oh, well, perhaps now this adds a new wrinkle, because that match was already made by the time he won this belt. So that means that it gave the potential of adding a wrinkle to their match, which we will talk about. But I'm doing this again in chronological order. So yes, Zachary Wentz wins the X Division Championship. So there you go. And you already know what kind of matches these are. So you either watched it, or if you didn't watch it, you could close your eyes and picture it in your mind, like I do during the punching up segment. So Josh Alexander was a Gia, no music underneath, and he basically just says, "This is my match, the Iron Man match. I've had one before. This is basically my match." That's basically what he says. And then we get the much anticipated, this is probably the most anticipated match on the show, Eric Young versus Burt Macklin. Yeah, we've never seen these guys wrestle before, and we couldn't wait to see it now. I may still have to wait to see it, because I'm pretty sure that while this match was going on, I just walked out of the room to get like a drink or something. Like, I didn't even care to pause it. I've never cared less about a match. No, I can't say that. This is one of the matches the only thing I care about this match is how much I don't care about it. Like, that's the most interesting thing about the match. Like, me thinking, like, how much don't I care about this? Is this the least cared about match in recent memory? Or was there another one that I'm just forgetting because it was so forgettable because I cared less about it? That's the story of the match for me, is how little do I care about it.
Yeah, like, all right, what does this rank on the Vets doesn't give a fuckometer scale?
It's burying the needle. To use a
Ghostbuster, like it's all in the red, and it's just bouncing at the bottom.
Right. If this was a Geiger counter, you're already dead. It's too late for you.
Your house has already fallen into a chasm.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, Burt Macklin kicks out of the pile driver. So it was like, oh, okay, he kicked out of Eric Young's pile driver. He must be really tough. And then shortly after that, he just scoops his legs and jackknife pins him. Eric Young seemed to be in full control of his faculties. He just lost to this technical pin from Steve Macklin after he kicked out of a pile driver. So here's what I think. I think the logic in whoever's idea this was I'm going to really get you over because you could kick out of my pile driver. And Eric Young actually made a veteran move, a stupid veteran move, but a veteran move nonetheless, of taking a moment and pausing before he went for the cover. Like he's trying to protect his move. Bro, it doesn't matter. No one's going to think, first of all, no one's going to ever think about this match ever again. Ever. Not even you two. You're moving on to whatever your next match is. Second, if anybody did remember, they're only going to remember who won. And if any psycho remembers anything more than that, they're going to remember that he kicked out of your pile driver. They're not going to care that he only kicked out of your pile driver because you took an extra second and a half to hesitate before you went over and made the cover. Okay? Let's just make that perfectly clear to the spies who are assigned to listen to this show. Okay? Get that message through. Nobody fucking cares. All right? Yeah, so anyway, afterwards they shake hands. Because of course you do. Two baby faces like these. One that dresses like Robert Downey Jr. and the other one whose line is literally tag him and bag him.
And mayhem for all, pal.
Yep. Yeah, that was a crazy handshake. You couldn't even control the mayhem in that handshake. His fingers were so clasped to the. Am I too bitter? I don't know. I'm feeling a little bitter right now. Is my bitterness entertaining, guys? At least are you guys laughing at home? I don't know. I feel like an asshole sometimes, even though I'm the one that had to sit through this. I feel a little better because I stole it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'd have been pissed if I had actually paid for the full price for this.
Whew. Was this on TNA Plus?
I believe it was, yes.
No. Right. Well, we all got the Frankie match for free, so that's at least, you know. Yepers Peppers, can't wait till the main event. Well, you're gonna have to wait a little bit. Dolph Gia, no music underneath. He cuts a generic promo. I can't even bury it. It's just everything he said was like a cliche. Just and then it's oh yeah. Yeah, you're right, Spaceman. Cookies, muffins, donuts, everything. I wish I had any of it. I have none of it. It's not my eating window right now anyway. This was a 6-woman tag. What does Jim Cornette call it? A women's 6-man tag. It's Militia and Ash by Elegance versus Spitfire and Jordan Grace. So, first off, all right, let me get this out of the way. What's her name? Jody Threat hits the pop shove it on Ash Elegance and wins the match. Who cares? That's not important. There's only one thing that's the story in this match, right? The first 30 seconds of the match is the babyfaces triple shit can the heels out of the ring and immediately start a dive train. So all that the heels have done has been to just get thrown out the second rope to the floor. Like that's the devastating thing that's happened to them, so that now they have to collect themselves and catch 3 chicks in a row. Well, don't worry, we didn't get that far because Jody Threat was the first person. They backdrop Jody Threat over onto the 3 girls. Her elbow comes down and hits Alicia Edwards in the face, and she is out as a shoot. She got fucked up. They carried her out. They did another dive on the other two before they finally figured out that Alicia wasn't getting up, and then Jordan hit the ropes.
She's like, oh.
Yes. Jordan Grace hits the ropes on the opposite side, runs through, and then just goes through the second rope, looks at Alicia, who's like, her dead, lifeless body is being propped up by Spitfire, and then Jordan just like, visibly confused and frustrated, and then just goes to the other side of the ring to start beating up the two women who are still conscious. And, you know, then the referee goes out there, and then Dreamer, supposedly Tommy Dreamer came out and helped her to the back. I saw somebody there. I didn't know that was him.
Yes, somebody was carrying Alicia over their shoulder to the back, like, oh, she's fucked.
Over the shoulder like a caveman?
Yes, not even joking.
Yeah, I didn't, yeah. I forgot about that. I didn't even... Bro. There's a lot of things. Number one, I already said this recently. If the person that you're diving on isn't bigger than you, cut it. Just cut it. There's enough dives in the fucking world. We don't need to see your dive when you outweigh the person by 100 pounds or whatever. It's not worth it. Why would you ask somebody to do that? That's like you being at the grocery store and seeing a little old lady in the grocery store and asking her to get something heavy off the shelf for you. Like, I don't even work here. I'm shopping too. Yeah, can you give me that bag of flour? Like, why would you do that? Just don't dive if they're smaller. Like, if you're smaller, you're diving on a big guy. Like, if you're gonna dive on AJ Francis because you're, you know, Laredo Kid or whoever, okay. But AJ should not be diving on Laredo Kid just because he can. You know? Jody Threat is just this block of muscle, right? So, first of all, get off the gas. Nobody cares. And then secondly, you know, we don't need to do your dive or your stupid spot. So, there you go. Now, yeah, it was an accident. It could have happened to anybody, but it happened to you. So, you know, I'm sure everybody involved feels terrible about it. But even from this never should have even got to this point. The psychology of this spot was dumb anyway. Why am I just going to stand there and wait for 3 separate girls to jump at me? You know, so you're doing something stupid. You got hurt doing it. You didn't know how to recover after that. And then you went and had the rest of your match somehow. I don't know why you didn't just take it home at that point. I'm sure everybody, knowing they were going to have to sit through an Iron Man match later, wouldn't have minded if this match only went 2 minutes. You know, and you just went straight to the finish. So anyway,
yeah,
later on,
if it goes short, you go to the other matches and go, hey, you got a little bit of extra time.
I wouldn't even do that. It's not like they're on real pay-per-view anyway. It doesn't matter. They don't have a block to fill. So, yeah, I just, very disappointed with this. But like I said, what can you do? It's done. It's too late. Everybody already feels bad. But in situations like that, just take it home. Your match isn't important anyway. Let's be honest. There was nothing on the line here. And, the crowd wasn't into it either because they all saw, like, dude, you saw Lish get caveman carried out after getting knocked out. You think they care about your little spots anymore? They're not watching your match. They're probably on their phones trying to figure out if there's some update or something.
Yeah. How's Alicia doing?
Yeah, there's no...
They saw somebody get knocked the fuck out for real.
Right. you need to get that match out of the ring as fast as possible. You know, whatever. I mean, you know what's funny? Sometimes when you see, even in a tag team match, when you see somebody get shoot hurt, they just stop the whole thing, regardless of what everybody else is doing. They're like, "Oh, we have an injury here," but not for this random six man women's match in the middle of a secondary PLE. No, we got to do the whole thing. Well, that's a good learning experience. All of you women can sit there and know what it feels like now to have to put on a fake phony match that just got one of your people fucking fucked up. You got to sit there and feel stupid running the ropes and doing fake wrestling moves after your friend just got fucked up and carried to the back, and have the crowd not give a shit about anything you guys did. Now you know what that feels like. So that builds character. Good for you. Everybody's got to have, you know, a shit the bed experience, and I'm sure you've had many others, but now here's another nice one for you. So, and then we get Steph and PCO in a boiler room somewhere. By the way, there was an update later from Gia on social media that both PCO and Alicia were in concussion protocols. So whatever the fuck that means, apparently concussion protocols is just getting thrown over somebody's shoulder and dragged to the back. You know, I'd hate to see what their concussion protocol is if that's their safety measures or their medical expertise. I mean, I saw the camera showed Lish on the ground like a few minutes after it happened when they were still out there. So that means that after they tried to go back to the match for a second, the camera went back to it and shot her. And on her face, she looked scared. She looked like the kind of person that, like, when they can't move, like, she had that look on her face that, you know, like when they can't move their extremities after they've been like paralyzed or something. I'm not saying she was, but I'm saying she had that same look of like she looked sad and scared at the same time on her face. I saw it.
Yeah, like she should have been stretchered out, not thrown over Tommy Dreamer's shoulder.
Right. I mean, even if she says she's all right, like, you can't trust her at that point. She's concussed. Oh man. But
hey, at least it ain't, you know, the owner of the company standing over you looking at you for 10 seconds. Oh, you're good. Get back in there.
Well, don't worry. Their match is coming up. Next match is ABC versus, I would have said, you know, First Class, but it's Coach now with KC Navarro. The C stands for Coach. Yeah, obviously whatever the finish of this match was, it was not going to be in the challenger's favor if Rich Swann is suspended. So even if they plan to switch the belts here, they weren't going to do it now. And so Chris Bay gets a small package to KC Navarro. It was I mean, the finish was more complicated than that. It was something about, I didn't make a note. Let me try to remember. I think AJ came in and hit a move, like hit the choke slam, you know, whatever he called down payment or something. And then Chris Bay, like he went to cover Chris Bay and the ref said, "You're not the legal man." So he had to get back out. And while he was arguing and others, and then, I think Ace Austin hit the fold on him after that, and then he rolled out of the ring. And then when KC finally went back over as the legal man to pick up Chris Bay for the finish, he inside cradle and 1, 2, 3. So that's how it went. It's fine finish, but you know, it meant nothing because they weren't winning, and the challenge, the coach wasn't winning, and the people were still recovering from seeing a woman get fucked up. So, are they paying Casey and Cheez-Its? Lab Rat wants to know. Don't have that answer for you. You'll just have to check with Gia Miller on X.
Can't say they are. Can't say they aren't.
All right, now, we get the System versus the Hardys and Joe Hendry and Mike Santana, and we get a remix of Joe Hendry's theme song that includes the Hardys, which is fine. I just thought it was funny that Mike Santana was like, I don't have anything to do with these guys. He definitely didn't seem like he was in sync with the team, not as a gimmick and not as a shoot, because first of all, he wasn't included in Joe Hendry's thing. He made his own separate entrance. Then when they went, like, they had the opportunity where they could all get up on the turnbuckles, and then 3 of them got up on the turnbuckles, and then Santana didn't. He started walking away from the turnbuckle. And then when he saw that the other 3 guys were doing it, then he got back up there and did it. So he just confused.
Yeah, this seemed a little bit out of sync. Like, Santana still could have been like his own guy, but at the same time, like, okay, tonight we're a team, and we're showing unity.
Yeah, he's above all this. One fat guy in the crowd tried to get a System chant going. Didn't work. I should be happy that we got a Moose match. Before I get started, is there anything you'd like to comment about this particular match?
I thought it was as far as the matches, 8-man tags go, it was a decent one, and I thought the right team went over.
Right team went over, especially considering
Moose is part of it.
Yeah, Moose is part of it. Also, they put the babies over on the prior night's show. So it was only right that Matt Hardy eat a Boston knee party and take the pin here. But mostly what I noticed was this lady ref and how god-awful she is at everything. I don't know whose cousin is this that's working this match. But I really don't. So there's a spot where this is when I started paying attention to what she was doing. There's a spot where Moose goes, and it's like, it's in the middle of the heat, and it's the spot where, and Moose just so happened to do it, but it's the spot where the heel goes over, knocks the guys off the apron, and tries to draw them in so that the ref can put them back out, and then they can, triple or quadruple team the other baby face in the corner, right? So Moose goes, he knocks Matt off, he knocks Santana off, and then he taunts Joe Hendry, and Joe Hendry comes in, and this chick just looks at him. She's standing in the corner off to the side, and she's just like,
nope.
Doesn't even take a step. Doesn't even take a step forward.
When you're the ref and the illegal person enters the ring, you push them back to their corner.
Yes. And they're supposed to try to protest. No, you don't understand. They're kicking the shit out of my friend right now, and you're not looking at it. I don't need to look at anything. I need to look at you getting back on the apron, and then you're like, do I turn around yet? Yep, no. Stay with me. Yada, yada.
And then they give you your cue to turn back around.
Yep. Joe Hendry steps in, and she's just like, hey, Joe Hendry's in. I believe in him. Get the fuck out of here. RBV says she blows. Do you know who that is? Do you know? You have an inside tip, RBV? I want to know. We need to get her a talking to at the very least. Not only that, how somebody has to, in these matches, look, it's rotten. Somebody's got to lay on the mat for undetermined length of time while everybody hits their moves on each other, right? Like they have to just sit there and sell whatever the last thing that happened to them was for like 5 minutes while everybody comes in and hits a sequence of moves, or they do all their double teams. All right, DM me. Um, so anyway, um, basically, basically, Fat Eddie's down on the ground, and she's over there down on her hands and knees with Fat Eddie, like making pantomiming like she's checking on him, but all she's doing is like she keeps doing the gesture of like, you know how the referees do that bullshit gesture like where they reach out their hand like the what is this, like you're going for a handshake, you know, it's for the audience to see, hey, I'm doing something. It doesn't make sense and you don't know what it is, but I'm doing something. Look at me doing something. I can't just do nothing with my hands. I have to do something. So they do this. So they just keep doing this, and she keeps doing this to Eddie. And she just while he's laying there, she just keeps doing this to him for like a minute. She's just sitting on her hands and knees with him for a minute in the side of the ring, and she keeps like looking back at the guys doing moves and shit, and then pretending to go back and check on Eddie, and she's not saying anything to him. You can't see her mouth moving. She's just. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. I was just like, who is this? And then she did that like
the dark haired chick, right?
Yeah. She just kept doing it. She stayed with Eddie. She spent more time checking on Fat Eddie in this match than she ever did like counting pins or counting, you know, like checking for submissions or anything. Like she didn't do any reffing in this match. All she did was stay on her hands and knees with Fat Eddie. It's ridiculous.
So bad, as Shorzy would say.
Yeah. So. It only gets better from here.
Oh,
60 minutes. 60 minutes of Dolph Ziggler and Josh Alexander, the two most exciting wrestlers in the business. It's an Iron Man match. You know the rules. 60 minutes on the clock. Most decisions by the end of the 60 minutes. They can occur in all the normal ways. Pinfall, submission, disqualification, count out. If there's a tie at the end, then we have a sudden death until we have a winner. And yeah, I know Liz really wanted me to tear into this, and I'm just not going to do it. And that's not because it was a good match or anything. It's not that it was a bad match. I'm just tired, and I don't want to cut promos anymore. You know, there was some stuff. You know, we got to lay in some headlocks for a while. We got to see some German suplexes. He did the Josh Alexander did something. I'm like, why don't more people do this? He hit his finisher. He got a fall. Then he just picked him up and hit his finisher again and got another fall. And then he tried to pick him up again, and he's too much dead weight. So he went to something else. But it's like, yeah, why don't people do that more? Why don't people work the idea of like, well, I just beat you, so why can't I just, you know?
I don't know how many Iron Man matches have implemented this rule, but I've seen it done before where there's like a 30-second, 45-second intervals in between falls where it's like, okay, you guys can't touch each other, go back to your corners.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, because that's time off the clock. That's valuable time off the clock. They do that in death matches where like if you score a fall and then the person can answer the 10 count, you know, maybe there's like a rest period or whatever. Iron Man matches shouldn't have that. And this one didn't. And they did it a couple of times. So after he slumped down on the third time, then Josh was like, oh, well, I'll just pin him. And then he's able to get his shoulder up there. So he goes for another cover and like that. So like little things like that, little psychology like that is good. Um, but I mean, it's an hour match. Dolph beat him with his own finish. He hit the C4 for the deciding fall and won 3-2. Hey, they went an hour. Then at the end, JBL comes out, whispers something to Dolph Ziggler, which Dolph seemed to like. So who knows what that is? We'll just have to tune in and find out.
Whoop whoop.
So that's it. Emergence. JBL emerged.
A wild JBL appears.
Dun, 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 dun. Yep. There it was. So, yeah, this was not a I did not find this to be an enjoyable show. But some of that was not the people's not the wrestlers' fault, I would say.
Yeah, if anything, I would say the wrestlers did their best in spite of what they were given.
Right. That was even in that 6-man women's match, it shouldn't have been on them to change the finish. They should have got the call from the back to just go home. I'm looking at the producers of the show that should have called that shit off.
Right.
They were just, and I'm sure they just were left out there to drown because they probably had a bunch of memorized stuff planned that involved Alicia Edwards and they couldn't do it. So,
yeah, and credit to them, they didn't I'm sure there are probably some deer in headlights moments, but it wasn't a whole situation. They still worked through it and pushed through.
No. Now, as far as the NXT No Mercy and how did this play out regarding TNA talents and stuff, and you could hear a full breakdown of the show as well as the upcoming episode of NXT. You can hear that on the Next Level Wrestling Review Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern with myself and Big Ray Hernandez. But just really quickly here, in the Wentz versus West match, Zachary Wentz did come out with the X Division Championship, which I was like 50-50 they were even going to do. But they did. But then Vic Joseph made sure to say, it's not about titles tonight. And it's like, okay, well, we didn't think it was, but, it would have added extra wrinkle to it. If you not making it a title match, but even just to make that part of it, it's like, you have the nerve to turn your back on me. Well, which one of us has got a championship to show for it? You look pretty stupid right now. Like that could have been part of the thing. But if you want to hear what I think about the match, tune in Wednesday. Let's see really quick. What else? Did you end up watching No Mercy or part of it?
I did not get a chance to, unfortunately. Work ended up having me swamped on Sunday.
It's fine. What was the other thing? There was one other thing. Well, Hendry versus Page. Most of you probably know by now, Joe Hendry did not win the NXT Championship, which was another 50-50 in my mind. Like, was it going to happen? Like, were they going to do it? I didn't think they would do it because they're WWE, but I also thought they might do it because if there's anything they love to do, it's to put over how progressive they are. So it's like they can say the first time a TNA talent has ever held a WWE like that. They can say look what we did. We made history. Like that's what it is. They don't care about Joe Hendry. They would care about making history. So I could have seen them do it. They didn't do it. So and they did kind of screw Hendry a little bit. So it's fine, but But hey, TNA's treated him worse. Oh yeah, Zachary Wentz won that match if anybody cared, which is also a little bit surprising. But I guess if they were putting Joe Hendry under, then they had to do something. So, well, they didn't have to do anything, but it was a nice gesture. So that's pretty much. I think you guys are pretty much caught up with the happenings of these companies. I think you are ready for Impact on Thursday. I think you are prepared sufficiently.
You are prepared.
And now we will prepare you on how you can find us outside of these shows. Brandon, where can the people find you?
You can catch me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X, at LG Brandon Whoop. I am also still under construction, still trying to get this whole situation with Twitch figured out, but where it's at currently is twitch.tv/LG Brandon Whoop Whoop. I'm also on Substack at HMG Brandon. I'm also doing watch alongs on the HMG YouTube channel. This week's schedule, it looks like we got a late start of AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, TNA Impact on Thursday, SmackDown on Friday, doing a late start of All Out on Saturday, and Sunday, not sure what we're doing, but we'll figure something out.
All right, let's figure something out. Well, you don't have to figure out where you can find me. You guys already know. It's at Opinion Haver on all social media platforms that I'm on, and even some that I don't use. So, if, like I said about the Next Level Wrestling Review, that's Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. If you want to catch me and Big Ray talk about No Mercy and NXT episode, the next episode there, that'll be coming up. If you want to check out AEW in a comprehensive, all-in-one place recap of the week, that is what the Wreckage has now become. It is Light the Fuse, it is Uncaged, and it is Wreckage all rolled into one Wreckage. So we'll be talking about Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, even a little Ring of Honor in case it's relevant. And Canada Spaceman, that was a B-word move of you to just leave the show just because Jimmy's mic was a little bit quiet. We told him to turn it up and he did. You were already gone. Like, come on. What did you have to do that was so damn important you couldn't wait for him to turn his microphone up? But anyway, we'll get those issues sorted out, and we'll be back with you at Sunday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, like we always are. And then, besides HMG, you could check out the HMG, Friends of HMG adjacent. You could check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Concrete, except sometimes they aren't. So there you go. You'll just have to subscribe so that, and get the notification bell so you know that when they are live, that they are live. And then, if you want to check out the Stevie Richards Show, then you're going to want to do that every Friday. And whenever time they post that show up to YouTube with all the cool technical whiteboard stuff that Stevie Richards be doing to break down and everything. He's getting his use out of that whiteboard. Pat McAfee's back to College Game Day. But Stevie Rich is still breaking down stuff, so check him out. The latest episode was about the beginnings of his career and ECW working with Raven and that whole thing. So if you want to hear some of his perspective on how that all started and who he worked with and how it was, definitely check that out. It's a very fascinating listen. Then all that's left is for you guys to go over to the JTG YouTube channel, and hit that subscribe button there. Let's get more people rocking with the God. So that's what I have for you. The next time you guys log in will probably be, if you see I Like It Raw on tomorrow morning. Where you'll hear everything from Big Ray and Jimmy T about this night's you're probably watching it right now, Raw, and then you can hear them talk about it tomorrow. So do that at the, I believe it is 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern for that. So you'll check that out live. And that's pretty much it. That's all we got for you. So for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.